Hi guys, it's Madeline. I hope you're all doing really well and thanks for coming to check out this tutorial, which is for a cute bear keyring. And it's really quick, it's simple, and you can change up the colours or the size and make something individual and perfect for you. So I really hope you enjoy it, and if you do, then remember to subscribe and give this a like if you'd like to. I always really appreciate it when you do, and any comments or questions below, always love to hear from you guys. So enough talking and let's get started. So we're going to start with a slip knot, whichever way you like to do that, and then for that first chain we are going to chain 9 in total. So once we've chained 9, we're going to start working single crochets back along. So we're going to skip that first chain and we're going to go into the second chain from the hook and put in a single crochet. So we're going to go straight through that chain, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. And we're actually going to increase in this one. So we're going to add another single crochet into that first chain. And then we're going to work along, putting one single crochet in each of the remaining chains. Now when we get to this last chain, we're going to do an increase again. So we're going to put in one single crochet in that last chain and then a second single crochet. So we have 2 single crochets in the first and the last chain of that row. Okay, so starting row 2, chain 1, turn your work, and then we're going to work into each of these single crochet stitches that we just made. So at the moment we're going to have 10 because we increased by 2 and we had 8 chains. So what we're going to do here is go into that first single crochet stitch under your hook and we're going to increase again. So we're going to put in a single crochet and then a second single crochet, and then we're going to single crochet again all the way to that last stitch in the row. Now I'm just going to skip to the end of this row, so just put one single crochet all the way to the end. Make sure you're counting your stitches, and when you get to the last stitch, just make sure it's the very last one there. Mine is really far over to the side, but just make sure you're counting, so you're going in 10 in the previous row, 10 stitches that is. And so here you're going to add in 2 single crochets in this last one, and in total you should have 12. So make sure you count to make sure it's the right number, because it can be quite easy to miss that last one, especially if you crochet quite tight like I do. So then we're going to start row 3. So chain 1, turn your work, and now we are going to do another row of increases at each end. So we're going to put 2 single crochets into that first stitch, then we're going to put a single crochet into each of the next 11 stitches, or actually it's 10 before you increase. Don't let me confuse you too much. Keep single crocheting to the end, and then when you get into the last stitch, put in 2 single crochets, the same as before. So now you've got 14, and that was row 3, and we're going to do row 4. Now row 4 is really easy, single crochet in every stitch. So you're going to do 14 single crochets, and After you've done that, you're going to repeat that for another 3 rows. So you'll have 4 rows in total of just single crochets. So you'll end up finishing with 7 rows at this point. You had your 3 initial rows of increases, and then you've done 4 rows of just single crochets. So on this row we're going to start to decrease. So to do that, we're going to go straight into the first single crochet and then pull through. Going to go straight into the second single crochet and then pull through, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook, and that is 2 single crochets together. And then along the rest of this row we're going to do a single crochet, 1 single crochet in each stitch, and at the end, for the last 2 stitches, we will single crochet them together. So I'm at the end of the row and I've got these last 2 stitches, so I'm going to go into the first one and then go into the second one and then pull through all 3 loops to do 2 together. Then chain 1 and start the next row. So now we've decreased by 2, and so we're down to 12, and so we're going to do the same thing on this row. We're going to do 2 single crochets together in the first 2 stitches, 1 single crochet along before the last 2 stitches, in the last 2 single crochet them together. So that's going to reduce this row to 10 stitches. So here I'm just doing the last 2 stitches single crochet together, and then we'll start the next row. So for the next row we're going to decrease again. So we're going to do exactly the same thing, 2 single crochets at the start and the end of the row, and at the end of the row, this row, you will have 8 stitches. So here we've got our 8 stitches, and we're going to do one last row of decreases at the start and at the end of the row, and at the end of this row you will have 6 stitches in total. So now we've done the face part, and we're going to start working on the ears. So as before, we've chained 1 and turned our work, and to start off the ears we're going to put 2 single crochets into that first stitch. Then we're going to put 2 into that second stitch, and so in total we've done 4 single crochets in those first 2 stitches. So then we'll chain 1, turn our work, and we've now got 4 stitches making up the ear. So what we're going to do is put 1 single crochet in each. So you're going to do 4 single crochets working along the 4 stitches you just made. So then we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and now we're going to do decreases. So just like before, we're going to go into that first stitch, into that second stitch, pull through and pull through all 3 loops on the hook to do a 2 together, and then we're going to repeat that into the next 2 stitches. So we're turning those 4 stitches into 2 stitches at the top of the ear. Then once you finish that, chain 1, and then we're going to work down the side of the ear and across to make the other ear. So we'll work 2 single crochets down the side of this ear, one into that kind of first space, chain 1, and then go into the side of what's the first row of the ear, and then we're going to connect to the bottom by going into that next single crochet that's the last row we finished before we started making the ear. Then we're going to continue along, put another single crochet into the next stitch, and you've got 2 stitches left at the end. So here's where we start the next ear. We're going to put 2 single crochets into that next stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the last stitch of the row. Okay, so then we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and put a single crochet into the next 4 stitches. So we're mirroring what we did on the other side. So we're going to put in 1, 2, 3 single crochets, and then that 4th single crochet, and there will be 2 stitches left in the middle, separating each of the ears. So once you finish those 4 single crochets, chain 1, turn your work, and then we're going to do the decreases. So we're going to decrease in those first 2, so 2 together, and then we're going to repeat that so that we're turning those 4 stitches into 2 stitches. So then we'll chain 1 just like before, and then we're going to work down the side of the ear. So we're going to put a single crochet into that side of the row, chain 1, put in a single crochet into the side of the bottom row of the ear, and then we'll start working around the side. So then we're going to start working around the side. So going into the next side of the next row down to join with a single crochet. We're then going to go into the side of each row with a single crochet to add the edge around the whole of the face part of the bear. And when we're at the bottom, you just want to work into each of those chains where we started. So there should be 8 chains along the bottom. So just work into each of those and continue working around the face back up to the ear. So here I'm just putting in the last single crochet before reaching the ear, the last couple of rows. And then to finish off here, I'm just going to go into that last row underneath at the base of the ear, and I'm going to put in a slip stitch. So there we've finished one half of the bear. Just pull that yarn through, leave a nice long tail for weaving in, and cut that off, and then you're going to make 2 of these, and we'll start working on the eyes. So for the eyes, I'm working in my black embroidery thread, and I'm starting with a magic ring, so just do that whichever way you prefer. And then what we're going to do is start off by putting 6 single crochets into the magic ring. So then once you have your 6, we can close up that magic ring. So just pull on the side as needed to pull that into a circle. Then to start the next round, you're going to go into that first single crochet stitch, going under both sides of the V-stitch, and it can be a little bit tricky because it gets quite tight when you pull it all together. So just keep working your crochet hook into there. I really struggled to find it this time, and the light isn't great here, so I'm really sorry if it goes a little bit blurry. But what I'm trying to do is go onto both sides of that V-stitch with my crochet hook, and when I eventually manage it, I'm going to put in a single crochet to start the next round. So that's 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch I'm going to put in 2 single crochets. So here I'm going into the same space and putting in a second single crochet. And then we're going to repeat that twice more. So we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next, and then 2 single crochets into the stitch after, then 1 single crochet, and then 2 single crochets. So in total we're increasing by 3 single crochets. So here is the second increase. So I've just done 1 single crochet, now I'm doing 2 single crochets in the same space. I'm going to do that one more time, and then we finished round 2. So when you work this second single crochet, the last increase, don't pull all the way through, because here we're going to change colours. So get your other embroidery thread colour, that is going to be the eye colour, and then you're going to lay that behind and pull that straight through. And now we can start working with that colour. So now with this new colour, we're going to put 2 single crochets into the next 3 stitches. So here I really messed this one up, so I'm just going to show you again. Once I go back in, and here I managed to just pick up one side of the V. So once I go onto both sides of the next stitch, I'll show you that we're going to put 2 single crochets into that first stitch, and then we're going to do that 2 more times. So in total we're going to have 6 stitches with this particular eye colour, and it can be a bit tricky because it's really small and I'm not used to working with small hooks. I don't do a lot of projects with small hooks, so I found this quite tricky to do with the embroidery thread. So just take your time, make sure you're going under both sides of both parts of the V-stitch, and when you have done that 3 times and you have 6, we will start the next section. So when you get to that last single crochet, don't do what I do here and pull all the way through. If you do, forget like I did, then just undo that one and put it in again because we need to change back to black. So go in with that last single crochet, you've got the 2 loops on your hook, and then I'm just going to sort out my threads at the back here so that I can pick up the black embroidery thread that we didn't cut off before. So that's not the initial tail at the back, that's the one we were working with that's still attached to our embroidery thread. And what you're going to do is pull that through to start working with the black again. So now we're back working with the black. We're going to do 5 single crochets around the top, and that is just 1 single crochet in each of the 5 stitches around this side of the circle, and that will bring you back to the other side where you started the brown eye colour. Now in that next space, we're going to change our colour again, and this time we're going to change to white. So go straight in through that next black space where you changed colour last time, and you're going to pick up your white and we'll start working with that. Now what you want to do is pull through your white and pull straight through the black with a slip knot. And then we're going to start working in the white going round. So go straight into that next space, which is now working in your eye colour, so for me the brown, and again slip knot. So that is just going straight through under both sides of that previous stitch and then pulling straight through the white, and keep these fairly loose as you work round or it will slightly curl up the eye. So just make sure you do your slip stitches nice and loose. And in total we're going to do 6 around the bottom. So once you've finished your 6 slip stitches, we are done with that eye. We're just going to finish off the this white colour here so that it finishes neatly. So just pull through so you have a nice long yarn tail. Then cut that off. And now you've got all your yarn tails coming out the back of your eye. So I just like to chop them all now to quite a long length so they're easy to work with, but so they don't get in the way as much. And now let's sort out this white end. So what we're going to do is basically like an invisible join. I think it's called an invisible join for this. So what you're going to do is go straight under both sides of the next black stitch and then come back through, and what you're going to do is go into the middle of your white slip stitch and straight back out the other side. And what you'll find that does is it just creates quite a neat join on that side that doesn't look too different from the other side where you started, and all of your yarn tails are now coming out the back of the eye. So you can see there I also just finished with a little white fleck in the eye. So I'm just going to add this on, It's about in the centre, a little bit high off to the side, and obviously you can decide where you think this looks best, but all you've got to do is just go straight through from the back of the eye and put in that single little line. Now I've still got quite a long yarn tail here, but I've lost my normal length needle. This one's really long, so I've just gone in backwards there with the needle. So we'll go through, and it just creates that little edge to the eye, which looks really nice. So all we need to do now is to attach it. So now I've got my chunkier darning needle, and all I'm going to do is pull all of these yarn tails through to the back of the eye. So I'm going to pick them up in their little clusters, like where they're coming out of the back of the eye, and just pull them through the main body, and then we can properly sew it on afterwards. But this just helps make it a bit more secure when you're working with it, and it hides all of those yarn tails. So really simple, just pushing it straight through the back and out the other side. Okay, so now all those yarn tails are pulled through to the back. I'm going to start sewing on around the edge using black. So I've taken a strand of my black embroidery thread that I used for the eye, and I'm just going to start in this first black stitch, and I like to go through the middle of the V-stitch there, come straight through. Can be a little difficult to get through if you're using a needle like I am, and leave yourself a yarn tail at the back so it doesn't all pull through. And then I'm going to go straight into the middle of the next V-stitch along, and it's just doing a running stitch around the edge of the eye, and because it's the same colour and you're going through the middle, it just goes in really nicely and you really can't see it's there. So I'll just continue around, and then I will join you when we change colours. So now let's work around that bottom edge, and I like to take the eye colour that I use, so here it's the light brown for me, and just pick up on the edge of that V-stitch at the bottom there, and the same thing, just continuing around with a running stitch until we get back to where we started with the black yarn. Okay, so once you have both your eyes attached, we can start working on the nose. So just ignore the fact that I'm at a weird stage here. I ended up filming the nose after I'd sewn together, but definitely do the nose before you sew together on your one side, because it's much easier. You see here, because I've got stuffing in now, it's starting to push the stuffing through. So just do it while you've got one side and you have both eyes attached. So we're just going to essentially be making a triangle shape for the nose. So what you want to do is come through, here I'm coming through from the side obviously, but you'd just come through from the back, and you want to have a nice long piece of black yarn to work with, and a blunt-ended darning needle is much easier for these bigger holes. And what I'm going to do is go from just inside the centre of the eye on both for across the top, so it's about 3 stitches in width. But what I'm going to do to start with is go down to the centre, down about 2 rows, I think that's 2 rows, and pull through there in order to start the triangle. So all I'm doing is just going into that space approximately 3 stitches along, then going 2 rows down at the diagonal to the centre, pulling through, and you've started making your triangle for the nose. So now, you guessed it, we are going to join this up. Now you could be doing this with double strands if you wanted it to be thicker. I did this with 1 strand. I went over twice because I just left the little mouth shape as 1 strand thickness, but it does make this bit a little bit of a pain, so you could just use a double strand to make the triangle, and then just start with 1 strand at the bottom, or do double strand, basically whatever. I'm just rambling, but you can choose how you want to do this. I go back here and go over everything twice, so I'm just joining up the triangle, and then I'll just go over that one more time. So I'll just show you this so you can see what I'm doing, and then I'll just show you how to finish off the little mouth at the bottom. So once that triangle part of the nose is done, I'm just going to add the little mouth on the bottom. I'm always really fussy whenever I'm doing this kind of stitching, like putting shapes on top of the crochet, and I drive my husband mad because I say to him, does it look lopsided, does it look weird? And he's like, no, it looks completely fine, but I'm always convinced that it looks really strange. But I was quite happy with how that little triangle turned out. And this little mouth is really simple. It's just a little stitch to each side, and it's like a tiny little smile, which I think is quite nice and really simple to do. So I'm just going to pull out those strands a bit so they're a bit more prominent, and then you would just put this yarn tail through the back to hide it. And for you, hopefully you're doing this when you've just got one side you haven't sewn together yet. So in that case, you're just going to end up hiding your yarn tails on the inside when you put the whole thing together. So now, imagining that we're back to where you should be, which is you've got one side with eyes and with a nose, and this nose looks a little bit different on mine because it was my first nose that I did all in double thickness that I didn't like as much, but this is what I used to show sewing it together, so it looks a little different, but it still does the job for showing it. So what we're going to do is first off just take those yarn tails that we had where we finished off making each side of the bear and just put these through and secure them a little bit before we put the two sides together. So I'm just putting that straight through the next stitch along, and I'm just going to leave it on whatever is going to be the inside of the bear. So once you've done that for both sides, you can put the two together. So you can start working around from anywhere. I decided to just start from by the ears. I thought I might as well get the ear bit out of the way first because it's probably the trickiest bit to go around. So with your nice long piece of yarn, just go through with your yarn tail starting on the inside so it's nice and hidden. And then we can start putting those two sides together. So basically all I'm doing is just putting stitch to stitch. So I'm going under the V-stitch on one side and under the V-stitch on the other side, just making sure that they stay nice and lined up. And then pulling through, and then all I'm going to do is kind of do like an inside running stitch on the inside of those V-stitches, and just go under the next V-stitch, under the next V-stitch, and just work my way around. And it hides that stitch really neatly because it just slides in alongside the V-stitches and you basically can't see it's there. And since those single crochets around the edge kind of already have a border, they look quite neat when they line up together. So I quite like this way of doing it. I think it's easy. On these notchy bits as you go around the corner, just make sure everything stays aligned and work your way around the top, up and down, and then I'll speed through this bit so it's not too boring, hopefully. And then when we get to the stuffing bit, I'll show you how much I normally put in. So I'm doing some stuffing on this one with some leftover yarn tails that I had, because I love adding them to little projects like this, so they don't get wasted. I don't have to put them in the bin, and it's really good free filler basically for little projects. They also don't come out as much as the poly filler, which sometimes, because the little strands can come out quite easily, so I do like doing this, but you could use any type of filler you like. And I'm basically just lightly stuffing it as I go, so I just want it to be very slightly 3D, but not really rounded. So you can see here that it's pretty lightly stuffed. I'm all the way around back to where I started, and now I'm just going to work over and work up to and then over the space that I previously worked in, just to make sure that it's all nice and secure. So all I'm going to do here is hide this yarn tail and secure it by putting it through a few stitches and hiding it within the body so that it's secure. Just go in a few different directions, and then I'll speed through this bit but so you can see what I'm doing, and then we will just finish it off. Just give a light tug and snip that off, and that end will just go back into the body, hidden in the stuffing, nice and secure, and there you have your bear. So mine is going to be a little keyring gift, and I just wanted to add a little DIY hanger at the top because I don't have any keyring hangers. So all I did was cut a strand of yarn and then pulled it through one of those stitches that makes the gap in the ears at the top. And then I'm just going to thread my yarn needle again, and I'm going to pop it through the other stitch at the top, so they both come out the front of the bear. I've pulled them through to approximately the same length, and then I'm just going to tie knots. It's really simple, but it makes it look like a little cord. It's probably easier if you just put it straight down so it's lying flat and then tie the knots, but that was a bit hard for me to show, so I just did this while it's dangling, but it tends to try and twist around, so maybe just put it down, make it easier on yourself. And just, tie as many as you need, make it as long as you want, and this is quite a good little cord for just wrapping or tying it around a bag or hanging it somewhere, and when you're finished you have your little DIY cord like this. So you could leave some yarn ends, tie it back in as a loop, leave it like this, whatever works for what you want to do with it afterwards. And that's it, you're done. So I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you are really happy with your little bear. I really enjoyed making this one. I'm going to try and make some in different colours, and I'm going to make some different animals, so I'm going to try and get those videos up soon. But as always, thanks for watching. If you did enjoy and you want to like or you want to subscribe, that's amazing, and let me know if you have any questions at all in the comments below, and I hope to see you next time.